This is the Soul Holla podcast.
Every week, we bring you mystical accounts from forgotten folklore to the fringes of consciousness.
Exactly. If you have ever felt there was more to this reality than what you are being told, you've come to the right place. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Brenna, and we're your hosts on this weekly journey. Welcome to Soul Holla. Hey everybody, we are continuing to talk about Missing 411, and in this episode we're going to dive into the hunted. It's all about hunters that go missing, of all things, and if there's people that know the backwoods and whatnot, that would be the hunters, and these are as bizarre as the kids that just vanish in thin air in the national parks and everything in between. So sit back and enjoy the creep. Rachel, why don't you give us a little intro on the guy who makes these missing 411s? Even though I do know how to say his last name now, but I'm still passing the talking stick.
Okay, yes. It's David Paulides, and this specific documentary is from 2019 for Missing 411, The Hunted, like you said. And he is former law enforcement. He's really good at investigating. He has has been written a lot of books. He has a current YouTube channel called CanAm Missing. And
CanAm Missing?
CanAm, I'm guessing Canada, America, Canada.
Oh,
I don't know.
I understand. I thought you said Pan Am, the old airline, and I'm like,
Pan Am what missing?
Okay, I got you. We're
CanAm Missing. Yeah, so he's a researcher, author, and he's focused on these unexplained disappearances. And he's come up with quite a few patterns, like we talked about the last couple times, that there are, what did I say? There are common patterns that we have seen.
There's near water. Now, there was a couple of the quote-unquote patterns that I'm just sort of like, well, that would go with all missing people. Like near cliffs and near water. They fall off a cliff, they get swept down a river. Okay? So to me, those didn't count as much in my own head. But the ones that did was right after they go missing, a huge storm always just bubbles up. It doesn't matter what time of the year it is. It was fine weather, 50 degrees, sunny, beautiful, and the guy went missing, and 10 inches of snow dumped, and they couldn't do the rescue. And it was over and over and over of people that their rescue can't start until the next day or two because of horrible weather that just out of the blue swoops in and takes over.
Yes.
That's a big pattern.
Huge pattern. I don't know if it's 100%, but it is definitely a high percentage rate.
Huge.
Of that being a factor.
Huge.
Yep. Mm-hmm. The other one is point of separation. Like there's a point where there's a group, or like when we saw that in those two cases, in our first episode, where they looked away or they were just stepped off the trail, and
she looked down, she looked up, and her friend was gone. Boom.
Yeah. Not a huge point of separation, but a little bit. And then in these, much more so. All of these have a point of separation.
Right. All these hunters. Yes. Yeah. And we'll get into the details. Another one was a husband and wife from Santa Fe went up to the ski area and was picking around looking for mushrooms. And at one point they said there was a point of separation. I'm like, well, how does that happen? I mean, they go up together, they're husband and wife. Maybe they got in an argument. Who knows?
Well, if you're picking mushrooms, you might like, hey, I see a bunch of
I'm going to go over there. I'm going to go over there. Yeah, it could. But it's just there's always this underlining, get somebody away from the other people. And then boom, gone. or however it happens.
Yeah.
And I think, and the more I've listened, the more I feel I know about certain things, the more I think it's not just one thing happening. I think there's a few different quote unquote paranormal things going on.
Agreed.
We can get into that maybe later. Rather.
Yeah. And one other one, I'm just going to mention this since we're mentioning patterns, is they find things, when they do find things, sometimes they find nothing. Like sometimes it's just whoop, nothing. When they do find things, it's often in improbable locations. So there's like, how could they have gone from, like you mentioned, like in your first one with the boy, who they found, was it the boy?
Yeah, it was a little boy. As the crow flies, like if he were a crow, he could fly to this area in a few minutes. But a human being on two legs, especially a little boy, I mean, take that out of the equation, but just a regular sized person hiking, it's like 10 miles away, and it's down huge ravines and up another mountain and then down again. Like if you're above all that, you're there in like a few minutes. But if you were trekking it was like way far away, and it's like he bilocated or something.
Right. And then the young girl who wasn't the high school girl, her scent was found in a cabin that was really far away. Like
it was like a little shelter that you could camp in. And it was like 10 miles away from the last known place. And the dog picked up her scent alongside the trail where her friend was watching her. She said she just stepped 1 foot off the trail and was looking down at the ground and bent down to look at whatever she was looking at. Who knows what it was? Mm-hmm. And she goes, and then I looked up and she was gone. And so the dog picked up the scent there, and the dog picked it up 10 or 12 miles away at that shelter out there in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And nothing in between. Nothing
Crazy.
in between.
And the other thing is that there is not like a little bit of search happening in these cases. There's like huge search parties and over days, and like they cover large areas, and they have a very strategic grid that they use. Like it's not like people, like one person picked through the area and was like, yeah, nobody's here. It's like, in some cases the whole town. Yeah. And hundreds of people show up
like that one guy we were talking about, which we'll get to in a minute. They had 60 different search parties for him.
That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah. 60. Yeah. And then they start finding his crap after 6 months. And they know that they went there and checked out area.
That's right.
And they're like, there's no way that his stuff would be there. And then almost a year later, they find his backpack in perfect condition with his bow right next to it in another area that they know
they went through.
Because they set up these grids with string, believe it or not. They've set up physical grids out there in the middle of nowhere, and people do the grids. Mm-hmm. It's bizarre.
Did you want to jump in on that one? That one's a super interesting case. It's about halfway through the documentary.
Okay, yeah, this one's probably one of the more juicy ones. And what's the guy's name? I didn't write anybody's name down, so you give me the name, and I'll take off with the story.
Yeah, so his name is Aaron Hedges. He's 38 years old, and he disappeared on September 3rd of 2014.
Okay, this is in Montana.
Crazy Mountains, yeah.
In the Crazy Mountains. So the Crazy Mountains are kind of crazy in that they're just a little patch of mountains up there about midway. It's above a Bozeman and in Montana. And it doesn't matter. So they're very jaggedy mountains. They're nice looking mountains. They're also the youngest mountains in all of America. But anyway, they're just a small mountain range. It's just right there by itself, all by itself. And they said it doesn't matter where you are in the Crazy Mountains. If you're at the tippy top of one of the peaks or in a valley, if you just go down, you're going to run into something. You'll run into somebody's farm, or you'll run into a road that's a drive, or you'll run into a main road, because there's stuff on all sides of the Crazy Mountains. Mm-hmm. And so that alone is one thing. And also, this guy went up there so often, he was an avid hunter, that he had permanent caches up in places in the backwoods and stuff in the crazy mountains. He knew them like the back of his hand.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. And he literally would, hike up caches that he would hide out in very remote spots. So he didn't, every time he wanted to go camping or hunting, that he didn't have to carry it all with him all the time, all during the seasons. So he and 2 buddies went up and they hiked up. They had 2 horses and a mule. He was on foot. He decided to hike in, and they stayed. Do you remember the name of the lake?
Yeah,
it's Campfire Lake. Yeah. I can't believe I remember that. Yeah, so they stayed at this place called Campfire Lake, and that was going to be their base. They were going to be up there for about 5 days, hunting, I believe, elk. And the mule, I didn't catch it if it was the mule or the horse. I thought it was a mule, but one of them...
I think it was the mule.
Lost its load, so to speak. And it just happened to be that guy's mostly his stuff, his camping pad and his this and his that. And it was lost into the water and whatnot. So he decided when they got to camp and they were setting up, he's like, I'm going to go up to my cache, which is the next peak up. It's another little tiny lake up there. And I saw the map. It looked like a mile there. And then he turns to the left and starts going up the mountain. And it's not way up the mountain. So probably an hour and a half of walking, if that. And he was going to go grab some stuff that he had in the cache since the mule lost his stuff to the river, I believe. And so the nighttime comes around, and his buddies
we should mention the weather, how it is when they just start out.
It's like, I don't know if they told us what month it was, but it was
40
50s.
Degrees, and it's September, so...
Okay,
yeah.
And they said it was like sunny and 50 that day, that the nights weren't too cold. It's late fall. Turning into fall, I guess.
But it was a nice day. It was, and there was ground. Like it wasn't covered up by snow or anything. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Starting out, yeah.
Yep. And no snow on any of it because just the winter had, set in yet. And so basically nighttime comes and his buddies weren't too worried since the guy knows this place. Plus he had his big bow. He had his pack on still.
I'm just going to interject if that's, they actually called him on the sat phone because they had I think they were just connecting like, hey, how's it? I don't know. They had a call. And on the phone, there's a GPS location. And they could see on the GPS that he had actually gone to the right of where his turn was. Like he was supposed to do a switchback up to the cache, and he had actually gone right.
Straight.
According to the GPS on the phone.
Yeah, it was walkie-talkies that have GPS, and it shows the coordinates of who you're talking to and vice versa. So yes, they saw that when I was telling you earlier, when he walked, a mile or something, and then he went to the left and up the next little ravine. He didn't make that left, and he kept going straight down the valley. And when they were talking to the guys, they're like, there's a way he would have missed that. His cache is up there. Like, he knows this. But that's where his GPS was saying he was. He was down the ravine further. He hadn't gone up to the cache. So that in itself was kind of weird. But they still didn't think much of it. And so they just went to bed, apparently. And then the next day thinking that, he probably just pitched a camp somewhere else. He had all his gear with him still.
Yeah, he could have stayed there overnight and then come down the next morning if he wanted to.
Yeah. And so he didn't show up in the morning, and so they spent all day looking for him and into the night looking for him. And it wasn't till the third day that they came out and they were like, our buddy's missing. Like, we didn't think anything of it the first night because we got there kind of later in the afternoon anyway. We spent all day the next day and night searching for him, and we are not finding him anywhere. Okay, so now the authorities are involved. You want to jump in there, Rachel? And
let's see, talking about the authorities, did the FBI show up on this one?
I don't think they showed up on this one, but they did show up on another one we'll talk about in a little bit.
But they did have, so they went to, I don't know if they went to search and rescue, but they did get people involved, and
This is the one that had like 60 altogether.
See, and
60 searches.
If you remember something about that, you should go ahead and say, 'cause I have not. I just remember that they searched heavily and far and long for him.
Yeah. So they had a huge search party altogether throughout the years, because this did stretch into years. They had 60 different search parties. And then they had, X amount of helicopter searches. They had X amount of... it was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically about 6 months later... Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say that where he was, there's a lot of boulder fields, which is another a pattern point, that the boulder fields are often part of the pattern of this disappearance situation. And then there was loose rock. So if he had gone off trail, he would have gone right into shell or loose rock. And then I
also known as scree.
Scree, yeah. And so, I think you're about to tell the part where they found some of his stuff.
Yeah, well, then they basically, and what it'd been like 6 months or something.
It'd been a minute, yeah.
Yeah, it had been a while, and they did, people were still doing searches, and so there was another search going on for him. And they were searching this kind of high, like, it's a little plateau. It's real pretty up there. And they know that it had been searched before because some of the people that were up there searching had already searched that area. But anyway, right there, just for all the world to see, were his boots. Mm-hmm. And they weren't knocked over or anything. They were just placed, just perfectly placed. Mm-hmm. And then they found, what else did they find there?
They found his water, like a camelback sort of.
Oh, yeah. The camelback thing. And I literally just watched this.
And he had cut off his waist belt of his backpack. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so then this was odd. This makes me think it might be alien abduction because he had his backpack on. And okay, so the part of your backpack that you put around your hips and you cinch up to put most of the weight on your hips so it's not on your shoulders. That was cut off. And they didn't find the backpack. They just found that part of the backpack, which is freaking bizarre. Also, I forgot to add is like literally the day that the guys finally came out of the mountains and, and alerted to the authorities that their buddy was missing. There was a huge storm, which is another MO. Big storm. It dumped like 8 inches, 10 inches on the ground, and they didn't find diddly squat. Whereas they couldn't go up the first day because it was blizzardy. They went up after, and they didn't find any tracks from this guy.
Right, that was the thing. Like you would be able to see tracks in that situation because
and they were saying, well, and David Paulides was like, well, why do you think he? I don't think he did it, but why do you think he cut the belt strap off of his backpack? And the guy's like, well, you can see it's padded there, and so maybe he slipped his hand in to keep warm. And I'm like, no.
I know, it didn't sound very believable.
A man's hand is not going to fit into that. Okay, I'm sorry. And they weren't even cut open, so it's like it's a moot point. This guy's just gasping for straws. But anyway, I would too. Like, they're trying to make sense of it, and it doesn't make any sense. So bottom line, so they found that, and they're like, what the heck? And then almost a year goes by. I think it was like 9 months. And again, in another area, and this is all down from that cache, okay?
This is actually down by the property of that couple that were down towards the bottom of the mountain. Yeah. About
a year later, and then somebody comes across his backpack. And what's weird is there was a rock fairly close to the backpack, and there was a thermos and a cup, like the top part of the thermos, like somebody had sat there and looked, but you could see the people's ranch, you could see the buildings and stuff. Like, he was not in the middle of nowhere at that point. And his backpack was fully preserved. They said it was protected kind of under a branch,
like waiting against. Yeah,
his gun was still in it. He had
orange vest too.
Yeah.
Which would have made him visible.
Yeah, his bow was still there. He had munchies in there, like granola bars and stuff. And it was all just right there. And then the last part of it is that they started looking in the general area, and they found more of his stuff, and then they started finding like a pelvic bone and a skull. And then David Paulides asked something about like the feet and the shoes. Well, did he show signs of hypothermia? Because that was what they thought. He took his boots off because he got hypothermia on that storm. And they're like, well, we don't know. We never found the feet. So they only found a couple pieces of him.
The skull and like I think femur bones.
And a pelvic bone. And then just other random stuff just sort of. So... riddle me that one, Batman. Who the heck knows?
And those remains were 11 air miles from his last seen location. From where his boots, and 6 miles from where his boots were found.
Yeah, and
so 6 miles from where his boots were found. Like in that sort of situation does not make sense.
And they had made the point that 6 miles from where his quote unquote body was found, the remains of it, 6 miles had gone by, and it's scree there. The boulders and rocks are really jaggedy. It's really loose. I mean, if you've ever tried to walk up a scree embankments, they're pretty crazy to try to walk up. I have done it a couple times, and it is like, it's murder. And then I surf down it like Silver Surfer. It's pretty fun. But...
You do kind of have to be on all fours, if you're going up, you kind of have to.
If you're going up, yeah. And they said nobody without shoes on could make that. There's just no way.
And the dogs didn't pick up any scent, so yeah, they would have picked up something from that. I would think. I don't know. Yep.
And so, what the heck happened to him? Why did his stuff show up? Preserved too. Like the backpack wasn't like it was sitting under that tree branch for a year. They said it was perfectly preserved. Like it wasn't moldy. It wasn't didn't have not mold, but lichen and all that other stuff that grows on crap. Yeah,
that's a good point. And it had all of his license and it had all of his identification.
It had his hunting tag still. I mean, had his gun. So, if any was rifling through that and wanted to keep anything, his wallet's there, his gun's there, is that,
Yeah.
And they never saw it the first time around. Right. And then the boots and everything else.
Well, this one was off the beaten track a bit, but still,
but it wasn't far from a people's ranch. So it might have been off the beaten path, but it's not that far from civilization at all. So
you're right. If he got that far, he would have been able to
scream and yell or something.
Yeah. Call attention to himself, put on the yellow, orange vest, wave it around, yell.
And really just keep going down.
Yeah.
Even if he fell halfway, he was almost down to the people's, ranch.
Right. Yeah, this one is so
and he had a gun. He could have done the gun thing, the 3...
Yeah. 3 shots in the air is a common signal for distress.
Yeah.
And if somebody's looking for somebody and or if somebody gets lost, they'll put people not lost will fire 3 shots and then they'll know, I need to go that direction. That's where people are. So that's a common signal.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. Which will come into play in some of our other stories. And we're going to have to do a 4th version of Missing 411, and that is the UFO connection. Because to me, this just screams something, otherworldly, or it could be our own government. I mean, I'm not putting it past them, but I don't know why exactly.
Something very paranormal. That we don't have. There's no answer. There aren't any answers that make sense.
It just and the hip belt being cut. It wasn't just off his backpack. It was cut off. Right. And they said, and they just kept saying, why did he cut it off? And it's like, did you find a knife? I mean, did they ever talk about a knife?
About that. No? Yeah.
I doubt very seriously he cut it off. It was probably cut off of him. And it's very normal for people who have had abduction stories and lived to tell about it and got placed back to have some of their stuff, their clothes are inside out, their shoes are down half mile from where they are. It's not uncommon to have their stuff strewn apart, or here and there and everywhere.
Yeah, that's another common, one of the patterns is shoes, or one shoe's gone, or shoes are gone completely, or things are, just scattered. Sometimes even clothes are folded, which I think is super odd.
Yeah. I've heard that too.
Yeah.
And that goes along with a lot of now not 411 stuff necessarily, although once we get into that, we'll be like, oh my gosh, it's totally a pattern. But people who have had and lived to tell about it, abduction stories, same thing. Like sometimes from their room, and they'll come back and they're like naked in bed, but their clothes are nice and like folded for them at the foot of their bed. It's like, what?
Or they find themselves outside on the front yard.
Very anal and studious aliens.
So strange. Like this one stood out to me. Like even I watched the documentary a while back and I still remember this story because it's so strange about how separated his things are. Like not every one has this sort of
the other two are going to be a little less intriguing just because they're more typical. It's like they're there 1 second and they're gone and no one's ever hearing about them again. One was in Santa Fe, the Santa Fe guy.
Oh yeah.
So he went up. He went up. The three of them. Do you want to tell the story? Or you want me to tell it?
Were you talking about the hunter where he went into the blind by himself?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's really interesting. So this guy, his name is Melvin Nadel from Santa Fe, and this was in 2009. And he had kind of had an injury from like stepping into a gopher hole. So his knee or ankle, something was a little janked up. So but he was going to go up, he went up hunting with his friends, but he also didn't like to walk. His wife said that when she was being interviewed. But, so
yeah, he wasn't an avid hiker basically, whereas the other two guys were.
Exactly. So his story was that they all went up, they met up, kind of his two buddies went off hiking up a little bit further on, and he was going to stay there and just like be in the blind and wait for, I think they were elk hunting in that situation. And so
that's a pattern too. It seems like that everybody's always elk hunting, not deer hunting, but elk hunting.
Sometimes it's deer, but it's
I know. I'm just joking, but all three of these stories are elk.
You're right. There is quite a strong elk pattern here too. So his buddies came back, and he wasn't there. His Jeep was there. Everything was locked. But just no Mel. Like the dogs tracked to the blind. And there's no bow, no firearm, like nothing. And
his GPS is just in the car.
Yeah, his GPS is in the car.
And they didn't think anything of it too, because they were like, oh, he literally, the blind was like just down a little hill.
Yeah, a couple hundred yards.
Yeah. Like 150 yards, they said.
Super close. And the other thing that could have happened is if somebody came up there and picked him up. I guess that could be a thing. Like they just came but the dogs did not pick that scent up. They didn't pick up him going to the road. They
never talked about any tracks or anything, other cars necessarily.
Yeah, right. That was just like a hypothesis. But so that one was just, there wasn't a whole lot of information on that one, but it was very interesting that he just disappeared.
And that's more apropos of these 411s, it seems, is that they're there 1 second and they're gone the next. And literally that's the end of the story. Sorry, folks. It's not more interesting, but nobody ever got hide nor hair of another bit of info about most of these people. They're just, boom, they're just gone.
Yeah, the first two guys, same situation. Thomas Messick and Fred Drummer. They were there. They were one guy was out, Thomas was out hunting. But he was in a position where he was just staying in a position and watching for them to flush I think that one might have been deer towards him.
There was 4 other guys with them. There was, I think, 8 altogether. The 3 younger guys went up the hill and were going to run the deer down towards the 4 older guys. They were all in their 70s and 80s. That's apparently how you get deer to come out.
Yeah.
And so his job was just to sit there, just like the other guys. They weren't so close they could see each other, but that's what he would have been doing.
So he was just sitting there, and this was there's 59 clusters apparently, and this was the New York cluster. So 59 clusters of areas that are known have become hotspots for these disappearances.
Yeah, and that's what Paulides, he started calling them clusters because it's basically, if you look at a map, he just starts putting like little tick marks in this area, and it makes a cluster of people that go missing, and it can be anywhere between 3 and like 80 or 86 or something. It's a very wide range, and
It's actually
this was
3 to 70 or 80. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, and this New York one, it's upstate New York, up in there, Albany and stuff. Huge bunch, Yosemite, huge bunch. Like there's just, I mean, they can be up to 80, and a lot of these are national parks and stuff. But this guy, he was where he was supposed to be. And then when it was time to go back to the car, he wasn't there. And so then they started looking for him, and they shot the 3 shots in the air, which is indicative of come this way, or if the guy was lost, he would be like shoot, 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 and somebody could find him, or at least know that he's alive, shooting his gun up in the air 3 times. Nothing. And this was what was interesting about this one, is that Paulides, he said that the FBI in these kind of cases aren't allowed to, and I don't know if it's because it's in a national park or forest or state park, but he said they're not allowed to search, or they're not allowed to search for missing adults, and that it has to be a certain kind of special circumstance for them to be able to search for missing children. Which then why do they always show up, especially back in the olden days? Nobody would call the FBI, and all of a sudden, boop, they'd be there. Bigger than life. Yeah. Well, in this guy's case, the FBI showed up, and the sheriff there was being interviewed, and he's like, well, I personally didn't ever talk to them. And he was asked, well, have you ever worked with the FBI with a missing person before? And he goes, no, never. He goes, well, did you call them? No, they just showed up. Mm-hmm. And so the lady, the wife of the guy who ultimately was never found, she said the FBI came to her and said, there's something very mysterious going on. We know that, but unless we find his body, we can't tell you anything. It's like, oh, okay, thanks for nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, so they alluded, I mean, to me, I would read between the, how's that expression go?
Read between the lines.
Oh, I'd read between the lines, yes.
Yeah.
And say, there's some crazy crap going on.
Apparently,
because they more or less... Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, apparently the FBI has been monitoring cases like this since the 1960s. So,
yeah. Yep. I don't doubt that.
Similar to these sudden disappearances.
Yeah, the first one we did on these 411, these missing 411, I told 2 stories back in the 60s and early 70s. And within the first day, well, after the storm passed on the first day, by the second day, the FBI was there and nobody ever called them. And they were there in force. And that's when the special forces would show up as well. Right. And so, yeah, they know what's going on. They just... Everything's a big old secret.
You can't possibly tell the public that something's squirrely. On this one that we were just talking about, the Tom Messick case, where he was day 2, it rained really heavily, so that fits in with the pattern. And there was that point of separation. And the other friend who was kind of in another little bit over from him.
Yeah, the next one
he
over.
did say that he heard a weird sound. Did you?
That's right. Yeah. And he wouldn't go into it. And David Paulides. I don't care. I'm going to say it however I want because I have to pause every time and it's starting to piss me off. He's got a name. I just can't remember. All right.
He could just be David. Yeah.
Davy baby. I'll call him Davy baby. Anyway, when David was interviewing this guy, the guy's like, well, I did hear a weird noise. And he goes, what kind of noise? Oh, just a general weird noise. You could tell he didn't want to talk about it. He goes, I don't know. I'm not going to say anything. Basically he was just trying to avoid it because he didn't want to get into a possible paranormal something. Cause he didn't say it was a guy's grunt or a cough or a yell he didn't He didn't say
He
anything
said
about
was a
it
weird
being
noise.
human.
Yeah.
And he didn't say animal. He never mentioned any animal. He just said it was a weird noise. So
Somebody else,
and then he
though-
just kind of shut it down. Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't his son or Thomas Messick's son said that that friend had told him that it was kind of like a trap being shut, like the sound of a metal, like maybe I interpret that as a metallic
Really?
sound. Yeah.
Yeah. Like a gate going.
Yeah, because it's those metal teeth, and if it's a trap being shut, so kind of a metallic zing is how I would, and it would just be bink, that's it, and you hear it once, and maybe there's a slight echo depending on where you are, but so yeah,
that makes me think that then now it is our government. No, it's
Really?
not aliens. It's not Bigfoot. Well, I mean, that seems like something like a human would do to another human.
Why would they do that though? I don't get the motivation. Like I get
because
more,
they've been experimenting on people forever,
Yeah, but this
the
guy
Russian
was 82.
people.
He had
I agree. I just when I hear a closing gate, that just makes me think,
Well, I didn't say gate. They said trap, like a trap.
Right. But I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah.
I mean, I could think whatever I want.
Yeah, no. I was just curious. So that's why I was asking you to elaborate what your thoughts were on it, because I feel like nobody's telling us what's going on. We might as well
nobody's
speculate.
telling us what's going on at all, which is frustrating as hell. But that doesn't seem like high technology. When I think of alien abductions and stuff, they're always really kind of otherworldly and dreamy, like for people a lot of time. If he heard some kind of mechanical shutting something, I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong. But to me, it just kind of was like, makes me wonder. Okay, so I don't know.
Well, it's interesting that not far from the first guy, Thomas Messick, the second outdoorsman, he was like an outdoorsman hunter, but he just disappeared from his home. And it's only like 40 miles south, and within...
Oh, that's right.
Like,
I forgot about that guy.
That same year, and it was the same...
Oh, it was the same year. It was 1 day apart. They're both almost exactly the same age. See?
Well,
I'm telling you, a government...
68 and 82, but yeah, they were older.
Oh, I thought they were closer.
And they quit searching for Thomas Messick on Thanksgiving Day. But then that's the day that Fred Drum went missing, was Thanksgiving Day.
Okay, then there was another guy then and it showed him, and he disappeared, and they weren't the exact same age, but they were like 1 year apart. Because I remember David Paulides saying, why did two guys almost the exact same age get abducted on the exact same day? Again.
Yeah.
Government needed, we need two old guys for this experiment. Okay, we're on it. I mean, it's as feasible as anything else at this point, because until they start talking and telling us the truth about whatever it is, I'll blame them just as much as I blame everybody else.
Well, it's definitely high strangeness, and
it is weird.
And now, I'm guessing somebody else did go missing in that area, because that's two people that we know about. But they said that, it takes 3 to be a cluster, so that's 2. So there's got to be another one that maybe they didn't mention. So anyway, well, how do you feel about this one, Brenda? What do you think we should wrap it up, or do you think?
Yeah, because I watched the actual documentary that he had. I watched it a couple hours before this podcast. And that's what we were going to talk about. So before we, like we like to do so often, get off on 14 other subjects. And maybe next week we'll finish up the 411, the missing 411 stuff with the alien or the UFO connection.
Yeah.
Because that one's really cool. I've only watched bits and pieces.
It's really cool.
There's some definite similarities too. Orbs and weird noise. So,
I mean,
I said, the 411 missing stuff, I don't think it's one thing happening. I think it could be a plethora of things happening. From Bigfoot stuff to UFO stuff to our own government stuff, probably. I think there's a whole lot going on. And I think there's a whole lot going on in the national parks and forests and some of these designated beautiful areas to enjoy. Come in and enjoy this beautiful, gorgeous area. Our quota's down. We need more kids.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It seems it's so different from every other type of...
It's weird. It's very strange.
And I was going to say, I'm always curious when they talk about granite, because I think Stonehenge, there's a few places that are really, sort of known as like magnetic, or people are drawn to them, and they're often granite. And I feel like there's something to that. So we can explore that down the road.
Yeah, David Paulides also said that that's one of the things, is oftentimes there's granite. Let's finish off with a joke, since this is so funny. This subject is just so hilarious. What did the limestone say to the geologist?
What did the limestone say to the geologist? I have no idea.
Stop taking me for granted. Okay, with that, this very serious subject, we will... give respect to all the folks that are missing their loved ones, really,
Yeah. No, it's very...
This is
so
very,
sad.
very... And it's creepy as hell because we have no answers.
And the families don't get any closure. That's the really hard part.
They don't get closure. They don't get answers. Even the guy whose remains... I mean, that skull was that guy. They were able to determine that. But, okay, so now they have that. They know he's dead. But, like, how in the heck did that happen?
Right. It's so
nothing adds up. Nothing adds up. So, our hearts go out to the families that
100%.
are left behind.
Yep. I can't imagine how awful that would feel to have someone just go missing.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine? Like, just someone yeah, it would be horrible.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. That's it then.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And please do like and subscribe if you'd like to hear more from us. Ring that bell.
Hit that notification bell if you want to hear us every week. All right, everybody. Until the next time. Thanks for listening and take care.
Yes. Thanks for listening. Soul Holla.